If you've updated your phone to iOS 26, you've likely noticed some big changes. Some changes to the look and feel, the transparency of various icons. You probably noticed degraded battery life on your iPhone. You might have noticed privacy settings have been changed when you updated to iOS 26. I'm going to walk you through a bunch of different settings that you need to make sure that you can turn off to help protect your privacy, preserve your battery life, and just make your phone run a bit smoother. Now, the first thing that I would recommend doing is turning off the transparency on your iPhone or the liquid glass look and feel if you don't like it. To do that, we can press and hold towards the bottom here, anywhere that there is not an app icon, and then tap on Edit at the top left. From here, we'll be able to tap on Customize. And instead of the clear look and feel, I can switch it back to the default look and feel of those app icons. However, you'll still notice if I swipe down that liquid glass look updated in iOS 26. We can change those icons back to the classic icons, but we can also reduce transparency to essentially eliminate or at least help reduce that liquid glass look, which makes it harder to read things on your phone. To do that, we're going to head into the Settings app of your phone. Scroll down a little bit, tap on the Accessibility option, and then Display and Text Size. You can see Reduce Transparency. It says improve contrast by reducing the transparency and blurs on some backgrounds. After you've done that, you'll notice as you hop around everywhere, the screens are a bit less transparent and have a bit less of that liquid glass. It still has a bit of it, but keep in mind, it does make everything easier to read and see without kind of that glassy look over a lot of items. The next thing I would recommend doing is going back into your settings. Let's go back to the very beginning because we're going to check a couple of things associated with your battery life. So go into your battery here, and they made some changes. The first one we'll tap on is charging. Now, if you haven't already, I would highly recommend setting the charge limit to 90, 95, 85%. Keep in mind, by limiting the charge on your iPhone from 100 down to 95 or 90%, this helps prolong the battery life of your iPhone. So if you haven't already, I would switch this to 90%. That's where I keep it. Let's also go back, and a brand new feature is in power mode here. You can see adaptive power. Essentially what this allows your iPhone to do is it allows it to throttle the resources, the processing speed down or up, depending on the battery usage on your iPhone. Keep in mind, if you have issues with the battery on your iPhone constantly running out, you might want to turn this on. However, if you have a newer iPhone and you want to make use of the full capability of that iPhone without reducing the power, then I would recommend turning it off. So it kind of depends on whether you have a newer iPhone or an older one. Next, let's go back to the very beginning because a big culprit that people would find in general, and then background app refresh, is that they have this feature turned on. When this is turned on, it allows any one of these apps to run in the background, constantly refreshing, using up your mobile data or Wi-Fi, and then most importantly, using up your battery life as they constantly refresh and update in the background. Again, we don't necessarily need this, just turn this off, and these will only update when you open up the app and try to use them. The next thing we're going to do is go back to the very beginning here because there are a couple housekeeping things at the very top. So tap on your name at the very top, personal info, and then at the very bottom, you'll be able to see communication preferences. A lot of times people leave these on by default, allowing Apple to send you emails and notifications, all that stuff that you probably don't want. So I would recommend toggling these three off. After you've done that, let's check back again, and then check your subscriptions. Now, if you're like me, you might have signed up for an app, started paying for it monthly, and then completely forgot that you're paying for it, and it's just billing you every single month. This is a good thing to make sure that you check on any active subscriptions. Just tap on those and make sure you cancel those. Scroll to the bottom and hit cancel if you don't use those. Again, this is really important just for sort of housekeeping. Let's go back to the very beginning. We've covered battery life, some settings that you might want to change, some subscriptions to save you money, but I would also recommend looking at the analytics and the privacy aspects after you've updated to iOS 26. So at the very beginning of your settings, let's scroll down until you get to privacy and security. And then let's scroll down again. Now, towards the bottom, you can see analytics and improvements. I would recommend turning this off and any of these other ones that are on. You can see improve hand washing, which allows Apple to listen to you and share motion and audio data. And then all of these, I would recommend turning them off. But that's not the only one. Let's go back out of here and you can see under Apple in advertising, if that's on, I would recommend it off. In addition to Apple Intelligence Report, let me open that up. Again, I would recommend turning that off and hitting off. Now, you don't necessarily need to share basically motion data, listening data, tracking data, all of that with Apple just to help it improve the iOS operating system. Again, I would rather keep that information private on my phone. After you've done that, let's go back to the very beginning of your settings again. Scroll down to the bottom, tap on Apps, and then scroll down until you find Safari on this list and tap on it. The next thing that we will do is check to see if all of these privacy and security settings are turned on. So if any of these are turned off, I would recommend turning them all on, turning from trackers on here, and again, all of these turned on. This will help prevent any of your information being leaked as you go from one website to another website, your IP address not to be leaked or basically hide it from any website. So this is just good housekeeping to do whenever you visit websites in Safari, or you can do this in Chrome if you use Chrome. I hope this helps. If it did, hit the subscribe button down below. It really helps me out. Thanks, guys.